What happened to my mic? Just muted itself. Whenever I stream to two locations at once, it kind of sucks up all the um, resources of the phone. I don't understand why. For me, right now, I see myself looking like super jerky and not smooth. But I think that, uh, to be honest, I think the broadcast is actually smooth. So it's weird. What I'm going to try and do is let me scroll to while I'm doing this. Good thing I didn't think of this, like, I don't know, before I hit go live. But yeah, let's go to settings and let's go to device care. Maybe, like, I don't know, maybe I got some sleeping apps in the background. No, it doesn't say it. What happened? I have a guest. How could I have a guest? How could I be my own guest? This is just me boomer teching it. All right, there's no way to make this thing work smoother. On my end, it looks super jerky, and I tried to tune it. I tried to fix it, and that failed. Anyway, whatever. It's June 8th, 2025, and lots of stuff going on. Ton of videos, a bunch of screen shares. Um, we are what it's I don't know. It's summertime, or it's it's not quite the first day of summer yet, but but um, where's the what do we got? What do we got? Um, I want to beat up on Sam Hyde. That's why I called tonight. That's why I called tonight's show Hide and Seek. Just because it occurred to me, I was driving back from Virginia Saturday night. Saturday night, or yeah, I think it was Saturday. Um, yesterday, today I only went to White Plains, but I checked my Instagram because I'm just constantly trying to curate um, content for this exciting show, and so whatever, fucking Sam Hyde reel pops up, and I was like, I just posted, and I don't know why I posted it, but it was one of those things where it popped into my head, and as soon as it popped into my head, I knew it was right. I said Sam Hyde is the male Ellen DeGeneres, and I commented that. And I'm not the only one. What the fuck has happened to my voice? I am not the only one who thinks that. So 67 other people also believe, as I believe, that Sam Hyde is a fucking no talent fed who tells you to do stupid shit and is promoted as some sort of I don't know, someone to be looked up to, but it's a social media account uh, of a no talent fed who sucks at whatever it is he thinks he's doing. Uh, and what does he do? He says, choose this, choose that, and gives you no way out, right? Just leaves you there angry and frustrated. Oh, what am I going to do? What I do is, and I'm probably the only legitimate guy doing this, is I list all the bad stuff that they're doing, and I show you how to fix it. I show you how to peacefully and legally do something about it, which will not only benefit you in the relatively short term, or I should say in your lifetime, but will build the foundation for something much greater in the future. And if you think that way, you will you will make some decisions that are good for you and good for the greater world. I've got a 1 minute video here. I had it for a couple of weeks and I kept skipping over it for a couple of different reasons. But now is the perfect time because the thing is, once you start noticing the pattern of things, right? Once you start understanding that it's a puppet show and they want you to think this and they want you to think that, and it's important for you to remember you're being worked, you're being sold, everything is a con. You got to remember that, and then when you look at this media as it passes through your phone or however you're consuming social media, it's easier to see through this onto the other side. But here's a 1 minute video. I think it's Tucker Carlson interviewing somebody that at first you think, well, what's the big deal? And then I'll show you what the big deal is. I'll show you how effective this really is.
This was just yesterday. The nation of El Salvador announced a 30% tax on all foreign funding of domestic NGOs within El Salvador. This is a shot heard around the world. There have been many attempts by countries to contain the NGO plex.
Yeah, most famously in Hungary.
Hungary, Slovakia, Serbia. Every time they've been confronted with street protests and attempts to pressure the parliament using civil disobedience and these same sort of State Department, USAID, Soros Foundation type rent-a riots. We saw that in Slovakia, Serbia. In Hungary, when they passed their NGO transparency bill, it was blocked by the EU. The EU intervened and said that you cannot enforce this NGO transparency law because...
What?
Yes. And they threatened to cut them off of EU funding if they...
Hungarians aren't allowed to know where the money's coming from into their own country?
Yeah. They called it the Russian law, by the way.
The Russia law?
Yeah.
Okay, so we all know that the bankers have their favorite minions to carry out, their work. Like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, they appear like one thing but they're actually another. So what this guy's saying is that in El Salvador, they've come up with a very novel solution to this problem. And remember, it's the job of government to solve foreseeable problems. And like that guest was telling Tucker Carlson, these NGOs or non-governmental organizations are around the world. Sometimes they're funded by Soros. Sometimes they're funded by America. We all know money comes to the bankers, and it's used to influence and overturn policies in governments that the bankers don't like. So what Nayib Bukele in El Salvador did was he said, okay, listen, anybody can come down here and do anything you want. It's just we're going to tax you 30%. However much money flows into that NGO, we're taking 30% as tax. And then the way you know that is the brutally spot on correct way to deal with this shit is this way. Saw this just the other day. He makes the front page of USA Today, Bukele's ruthless rise. And they picked that photo where you're looking up at him like he's and they're making him look evil, like he's a big, scary dude. Look how big and scary he is. Again, that looking up from the child's perspective thing is designed to get you thinking and acting a certain way. But yeah, he made the front page of USA Today as a scary bad man. And why all of a sudden it's not because of he's still buying Bitcoin and IMF hates it, although that's part of it. It's because the action arm of the elites is the NGOs, right? Like that clip stated, rent the riots, all sorts of terrorist groups. I guess that's the step before actual terrorist groups start attacking your government. But Bukele came up with a very elegant solution. Yeah, sure, just give us 30%. We're just going to tax them 30%. So, and they're going to take that 30% and use it to counter whatever the NGOs are doing, first off. But secondarily, the whole idea is make it too fucking expensive. Make it too fucking expensive to do what you want to do, right? Raise the cost of the mischief to a point where they don't really want to do it anymore. And that is a very clever and very elegant solution. Very clever and very elegant solution. Because the truth is, like, they don't give a fuck. Like, you know they don't give a fuck. But especially they don't give a fuck. And the more they pretend to give a fuck, the less they actually give a fuck. I just saw this the other day. Where's my man? Billionaire BlackRock CEO Larry Fink warns that these $36 trillion debt will overwhelm America unless stellar economic growth is achieved. Translation: we want even more money than we already have. Because, he doesn't give a fuck about America, right? The idea that he's worried about the $36 trillion debt is total and complete bullshit. But they put these fucking ridiculous propaganda pieces out. Translation: make the stock market boom so fucking much that he makes, instead of making 3 times his current wealth, he makes 8 times his current wealth. And that is, and that's what's going on, right? So, and the timing of that is right about the time where the two puppets, Puppet Elon and Puppet Taco Trump, are having their little split, right? Their love affair is over, and we're going to spend more and more and more. Money printer go burr, right? Money printer go burr, and where is it? Where's the one? I think it was this one. Is this it? No, that's not it. No, that's not it. No, James, that's not it. Where's the one with the talking about? Or maybe this is it. Maybe this is it. Maybe the one you titled Burr. Yeah, this was on Saturday, yesterday. Interesting. When the markets are closed in the U.S., U.S. Treasury abruptly buys $10 billion of its own debt in a massive historic Treasury buyback. And what they're saying is that the last time they did this was in the year 2000, and they bought back $3 billion worth of their own debt. That was a Y2K bug, the so-called Y2K disaster, the end of the dot-com era. Well, this time they did it 3 times larger, 300% larger. But yeah, this is funny. Anyway, let's jump around to a few things. Finally, my man, he's not my man, but the dude whose girlfriend threw out his computer, his old computer, which contained 1,000 Bitcoins on it, into a landfill in England. He has finally given up after 12 years of failed attempts, and he's not going to get access to dig through the trash pile to get his hard drive back. So he's given up. This is right before a Netflix movie of the week or whatever, movie of the month comes out about this guy. And you look at this and you think, what a crazy story. And of all the Bitcoin stories out there that are crazy, there are tons of them. But you have to wonder, did he ever buy more Bitcoin? This is what, every night after he left the landfill, did he ever go home and just smash up the buy button? Or did he think to himself, no, I'm not going to buy Bitcoin at whatever price, because I've got 1,000 of them waiting for me. Did he not try to rebuild his stack? That is the question. I don't know. I do not know. But that's the most interesting question you could possibly come up with. So what do we got? Oh, we got so much stuff. Yeah. Speaking of trash, Speaking of trash, oh, let's go to my old hometown of New York City. That the story that won't end about the crypto millionaire who was kidnapped and tortured and beat, pistol whipped and stuff. Uh, that just won't go away. And you have to remember that Eric Adams, pictured here, who got pardoned by Trump, it's like 2 seconds after Trump became president. But Eric Adams, two of the detectives on his personal security team are somehow involved in the kidnapping and torture of the Italian crypto multimillionaire. And because we live in a world where, none of this stuff, there's no pause. There is a world of no chill. Eric Adams has the balls to say that Bitcoin can fix what Wall Street broke. Can it fix what your bodyguards did to that Italian dude? Asking for a friend, asking for a friend. But so what tickles me and is how these things are right next to each other and people don't get it. The selective attention, the phenomenon of selective attention, since I've become aware of it, has made the world a lot more humorous to me, a lot more humorous. And you remember what's his name? I should have two of those. I think I do. Well, let's stay on the Bitcoin thing. Bitcoin Vegas, which I did not think much of, and I don't think of much of these conferences anyway. But this was some dude, like, they put Bitcoin Vegas, where they brought out Ross Ulbricht, the Jewish guy who ran the Silk Road website that actually gave Bitcoin its bad reputation as drug dealer and terrorist money. That Ross Ulbricht was a keynote speaker at Bitcoin 2025, and somebody did their presentation. They put Henry Ford up on the big screen with some altered quote about the banking system and how if people understood how it worked, they would start a revolution overnight. And all this while Ross Ulbricht is getting a standing ovation for doing 11 years in prison. But I don't know, like, I don't think anybody saw that, like, oh, there's Henry Ford, the famous anti-Semite, and we're giving a special award to a Jewish guy who tried to ruin the thing that we think is going to change the world. The fact that this happens at the same time and nobody sees it, that to me is pretty fucking humorous, pretty funny. And is this the one? Yeah. So since I mentioned last week that Ross Ulbricht received 300 Bitcoins, a $31 million donation after Bitcoin 2025, the nerds who follow all the stuff on chain track down where those 300 Bitcoins came from. And they came from it says Silk Road founder Ross Ulbricht successor marketplace. So a copycat of the Silk Road, something called Alpha Bay, which I think is in Central Europe, sent the 300 Bitcoin. And the article goes on, and it says that the substantial contribution comes from a site. Blah, 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 blah. Where the fuck was it? Oh, wait. There was one. It said that they used a mixing. They try to use like a Bitcoin mixing program so you wouldn't know where the money came from. But it certainly came from a criminal. And they're saying, well, it's certainly of criminal origin. The donation was sincere or something like that. But the bottom line is they're still using it for payoffs. So it's super interesting who that person was that paid off Ross Ulbricht $31 million. Is somebody who probably made a lot of money, one, copying his website, and his business model. And so, and Ross Ulbricht, the Silk Road was running when Bitcoin was like $11 or $12 a coin. So saving 300 Bitcoins for Ross probably didn't cost that much if you paid $11 each for them. And if he kept his mouth shut about you and didn't give you up to the feds, yeah, you could pay him off once he gets out. And what's anybody going to do? So I just thought that was interesting. But yeah, Henry Ford and the honoring of criminal Jews at Bitcoin conferences is the juxtaposition of these two things is really, really, really interesting. Super interesting. Not as interesting as some other stuff. What am I going to do? I'm going to go. Let's switch gears a little bit. Did I switch gears a little bit? I should. Probably should, right? Because I did El Salvador. I got something that says Bitcoin Vegas. Let me click on this, see what this one is. So yeah, that's them cheering that guy Ross Ulbricht, who single-handedly set back Bitcoin 10 years at least, and they cheer him. And you can't make this stuff up. You cannot make this stuff up. So what do we got here? You want to be smarter about certain things. You want to be smarter, but too many people are too fucking naive. They're such naive children. They don't get what's going on. Here's a 2-minute video on how you project your weaknesses outward. The weak part is you. You don't want to think of yourself as the weak part because it's unflattering. But since listen, I got scammed and other people got scammed, and there's a bunch of different ways that this could happen, but my guess is what you're going to see here. This is Bitcoin sort of related. It's a shitcoin story, but something like this, and this ties in with the Mayor Adams and all the rest. Something like this is going to be probably a lot more common in the future than most people are comfortable with.
Can you do me a favor?
A 22-year-old woman escorted from a downtown Miami hotel accused of ripping off her ex to the tune of $850,000.
I had great intentions with her. I loved her with all my heart. I treated her to the best that I could.
Michael Anthony Bravo is a guy who hit it big in the crypto market. He also thought that finding Jabali last June was a win in the love department.
I always, spoiled her with great dinners, whatever she wanted, whenever she wanted to go shopping. I provided for her. I helped pay her bills.
But this relationship would head south a couple of weeks ago. He fell asleep on his yacht and woke up to find she was gone, along with his American Express credit card and $850,000 in cryptocurrency.
As soon as she transferred the Trump coin from my wallet into her wallet, she left within 7 minutes.
I think this was a plan from day one, that she targeted my client, that she's much more sophisticated than he gave her credit for. And for someone 22 years old to have set all this up, this can't be her first rodeo either.
Private investigator David Bolton was hired to track her down and found her in a downtown Miami hotel on Valentine's Day, where Miami police confronted her. Investigators say she told them, "That loser is my ex-boyfriend. He lets me use his credit card." Police say she also booked an Airbnb with his card, with a charge of more than $4,200. She was arrested for grand theft and credit card fraud. But the problems for Bravo didn't end there. After appearing in court, the Tunisian native was handed over to immigration officials. The problem is she has the key to a crypto wallet that holds Bravo's money.
And that's kind of put us in the bind that we are with immigration at this point. And certainly we don't want her to be deported until she goes before a judge and before our client is made whole.
So if that chick is smart, she gives up. She doesn't give up the crypto. It's Trump coin, so it's a shit coin, but it's $1 million. You know, that piece of coochie cost that dude $1 million, right? And if she's smart, she gets a good lawyer. All the charges will be dropped. Everything will go away. She'll be like the female Ross Ulbricht, right? Just I would say make everything fucking go away. Make everything go away, and I get to keep 20%, you know, and they'll have to make that deal because the guy's going to lose $1 million fucking dollars of shit coins, and and she's going to have them in a foreign country where she'll dump them somewhere on Binance or whoever will fucking take them, and she'll get away with $1 million. He's not going to let that happen. Obviously, this guy is, if you have $1 million worth of Trump coin, you're pretty well hooked up with some shit. But the thing is, this guy's weak, right? She comes rubbing up against him, and he's a fucking nerd who's never gotten laid before, and he thinks he's met his life mate or whatever, and he just leaves himself completely vulnerable, and she fucking cleans him out. So stuff like this is going to happen, more often. I suspect that's going to happen more often than you being kidnapped and tied up in a townhouse in New York City and pistol whipped. Not saying that you can't be tied up and pistol whipped if you open your mouth because you're a retard. But it's much more likely that you're going to get out hustled by something female. So I think that's a great fucking story. I love that story. Not as much as I love this story. There was a dude. This just happened. Guy's name is James Wynn. I don't know. The only Wynn I know that would have this kind of money would be the son of Steve Wynn, the Las Vegas casino magnate. But this story's actually already over. But for a very brief time, this guy was a social media star.
From almost $100 million to potentially losing it all, James Wynn is this close to becoming liquidated, but he remains confident and still long on Bitcoin. However, now he's just inches away from liquidation at $108,000 Bitcoin. Will he make it out on top? He posted on X saying, "They emptied the clip on me. They gave everything they had. Now they're out of ammo. They failed. They can no longer outperform the monumental buy pressure happening in Bitcoin right now. Win 1, market maker 0. And guess what? He's still up over $30 million despite the crazy swing. He's not backing down. He's going full throttle, and he believes that he's going to run this account back to $100 million. Will James Wynn make his comeback and cement himself as a trading legend, or is he destined for liquidation?"
Spoiler alert, he's destined for liquidation. So this guy made a leveraged bet, like an options contract or something on Bitcoin, that it was going to moon. And, he uses dramatic language. They emptied the clip on me. See this clip? See the clip? They emptied the clip on me and they can't stop me. And I'm, he lost $100 million. I don't know how many people can afford to lose $100 million, but he lost $100 million. And further proof that people with a lot of money are not smarter than you. They're not better than you, or hardworking than you. They just have more money than you. You know what I mean? They were born in a position where they could access a lot more resources than you can access. And they are just as stupid, if not more stupid than you, because they never have to learn their fucking lessons. They never have to learn their lessons. And that applies not just to individuals, but to entire corporations, specifically Apple, which I fucking hate. And I got a great Apple story. And this is, it's an Apple story with China. It's a Chinese Apple story. So it's a pomegranate story. It's a Chinese Apple story that, again, if you really think clearly, right, and you don't buy into the political fairy tales or the cultural fairy tales, if you put all that shit aside, there's an enormous amount you can learn, and really quickly, when you hear stuff like this, and it can be very useful to you in your regular life.
The most insane statistic about Apple's business is that they've never had more than 20% market share of the smartphone industry globally, and yet they routinely rake in 80% of the global profits. I'm totally unfamiliar with any other industry where a minority player dominates the way that Apple does. Really what's taking place is that we've ignored Apple operations. I call this the Apple squeeze, and this is how Apple works with its suppliers in China. Year in, year out, Johnny Ive was making designs for Apple products that could not be built in China without a ton of engineering. And the quid pro quo that Apple would basically offer these suppliers is, look, we're barely going to pay you. You might be lucky to make 1% margins on this product, but here's the thing. You are going to get the best engineering training you've ever got. Apple had this rule that they don't want any supplier being more than 50% dependent on Apple revenue. And so Apple was saying basically, look, you need to grow as quickly with somebody else as you're growing with us. And so Apple gave birth to the Chinese smartphone industry. So all of these suppliers began supplying Xiaomi, Oppo, Vivo, Huawei. The results basically were the death of Nokia, Motorola, BlackBerry, anybody you can think of. Common in Western discourse to hear that the iPhone killed Nokia because Nokia couldn't keep up with multi-touch and the innovations that Apple was introducing. But it's really more of an operations story. Apple didn't kill Nokia. Chinese imitators of the iPhone killed Nokia. And the reason the imitations were so good is that Apple trained all of their suppliers.
Pretty interesting, huh? Right now, Apple doesn't care about the Chinese market and selling that many iPhones in China. China makes the phones and eliminates Apple's competition, which superficially in the short run sounds good because there is no more Nokia and Ericsson and Motorola. But now you have the Chinese. Now you have the Chinese makers who know all the tricks you know, and you're going to have to deal with them. And Apple not doing so well these days. So yeah, super interesting that Apple created its own problems, and it's going to be fun to watch them try and get out of it, because I don't know how the fuck they're going to get out of it. I do not see any way that these guys get out of it. And that's super fucking interesting. Oh shit, I don't have it. Maybe I got rid of it. Probably got rid of it. But a lot of people create their own problems. And, you know, our friends who go to church on Saturday, who worship on Saturday, are creating their own problems on levels previously thought impossible. This next story, I swear to, I wish I lived in New York. I don't really wish I lived in the 5 boroughs again, but this story makes me wish I lived in the 5 boroughs again, so I could do what would be obvious.
Mr. Cuomo?
Given the hostility and the anti-Semitism that has been shown in New York, I would go to Israel.
Mr. Tilson, where would you go?
Yeah, I'd make my 4th trip to Israel, followed by my 5th trip to Ukraine, 2 of our greatest allies fighting on the front lines of the global war on terror.
Mr. Mamdani?
I would stay in New York City. My plans are to address New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs and focus on that.
Mr. Mamdani, can I just jump in? Would you visit Israel as mayor?
I will be doing, as the mayor, I'll be standing up for Jewish New Yorkers, and I'll be meeting them wherever they are across the 5 boroughs, whether that's in their synagogues and temples or at their homes or at the subway platform, because ultimately we need to focus on delivering on their concerns.
And just yes or no, do you believe in a Jewish state of Israel?
I believe Israel has the right to exist.
Not
as a Jewish state?
As a state with equal rights.
He won't
Not
say it has a right to exist as a Jewish state. Be very
And
clear
his answer was no, he won't visit Israel.
I said that.
That's what he was trying to say.
No. Unlike you, I answer questions very directly.
All right,
and I want to be very clear. I believe every state should be a state of equal rights.
Okay, thank
you. I wish I could vote for that guy. I wish I lived in the city just to vote for that guy. And between Cuomo and him, he's like nipping at Cuomo's heels. So it would be so great if that guy won. I have no idea if they can keep him out, but it's fucking so great if they inevitably by censoring people and by not allowing them to level honest criticisms, you're going to create somebody like that guy who's really fucking smart he knows all these traps. He's seen all these fucking things before. And now you have literally the entire panel, not just the other candidates, but the moderators. They're all hammering at him, like pledge allegiance to Israel, pledge allegiance to Israel, pledge allegiance to Israel, or else, And I don't think they could, like, if he arranged it, like if he paid them off, he couldn't get better press than that. And because I saw that clip and a few others, there's so many black people in New York making Instagram reels asking, like, why would you go to Israel? And like college educated white females, all of them going, what's this obsession with going to Israel? Isn't he supposed to be the mayor of New York? So I see that and I just love that shit. Because, the political fairy tales have to be rewritten, so that they're not so much of a fairy tale. Because all the stuff that people believe, all the stuff they tell you, the guy says, I want to visit Ukraine. This the guy's going to be mayor of New York. I want to visit Ukraine, our partner in the war on terror. Well, who's Ukraine fighting with? Why Ukraine is fighting with Russia. And what does Russia have? Russia has oligarchs. And where do the Russian oligarchs like to buy real estate? Well, here. So those evil Russians, we're going to get them, not the ones that are buying $25 million buildings in Manhattan. Then we're not even going to mention, we're going to let them come here. We're going to let them buy up in Manhattan and whatever else they want to buy up while we pretend to be, I don't know, beating up on Putin. We're going to sanction them. Russian sanctions. Why don't you take those fucking buildings back in New York? Why don't you just fucking eminent domain all of those buildings, right? I mean, if you really want to hurt Russia, right? Hurt the oligarchs, And they'll say, we can't do that because it won't affect Putin. But they will pulverize every fucking Palestinian in the fucking Middle East because that's going to influence Hamas, right? And all of this shit, everyone's going to notice. Everyone's going to notice. Everyone's going to notice. And for the people that aren't going to notice, they're going to be like my man's with the tattooed face, who enlightened me. I learned so much from this kid. The kid who talks about Abraham Lincoln.
Anyways, bro, school's a scam. Whatever school you go to, drop out and start fucking gambling, bro. Niggas not trying to hear about Christopher Columbus, Abraham Lincoln finding the map and fucking finding the Atlantic Ocean. Like, nigga, we don't give a fuck about that shit, cuz. You think we give a fuck about that nigga finding the Atlantic Ocean, nigga? Nigga, teach us about Pablo Escobar moving bricks, cuz. Teach us some shit about crypto, man. Teach us some shit about fucking financial taxes, man. Like, yeah, teach us about gambling. They should give us gambling classes, I swear to God, bro. Like, I will be the teacher.
I don't give a fuck about Abraham Lincoln fighting the ocean on the map. If he wants to fight the ocean on the map, let him fight the ocean on the map. You have, I don't know how many millions of people are like that kid. A lot, you know what I mean? A lot. And, if you showed them that the oligarchs are owning $25 million buildings, they'd volunteer to kill for that guy. They would kill people in the subway just to sleep on the floor in that place. And that's the world you live in. And the way you solve this is not by going to a fucking march, waving your flag and marching. You got your banners and shit. because none of that stuff, and I can show you, reels from all over the fucking world. Everybody who marches in the street gets nothing, unless of course you're an NGO. You're an NGO being funded by Soros or whatever. They actually move people, right? But when there's a legit, widely popular movement, you don't get anything. You're not in the room where the decisions are made. You don't know anybody who's ever been in that room. You don't know where those rooms are. And you're never going to be in that room, right? There are rooms where decisions are made. Send more bombs to fucking Israel. Do this, do that. Send a fucking aircraft carrier off the coast of fucking Yemen. There are rooms where these decisions are made, and you're not in those rooms. You don't know anyone that's been in those rooms ever, right? So worrying about this stuff, I mean, obviously we're aware that it's happening, but there's no point in fucking paying attention to it whatsoever, because you can't do a fucking thing to stop it, all right? There's nothing you can do to stop it. What you can do, however, is in a generalized fashion, trade your government money for something the government doesn't control. I've said that over and over again, and it's super fucking important. And if you're a normie with a good job, you're a middle class person, and you're like, oh, I don't know, what do I do with my IRA? Buy fucking nuclear power stocks. Just anything nuclear power. Was the one I just bought. And this is not financial advice, by the way, but this is my worldview. And I just found out this company just existed. GEV. George Echo Victor. It's General Electric Vernova or some shit like that. It's a new division of General Electric and Hitachi making nuclear power stuff for the government. The stock is like $500 a share. It's the biggest fucking most well-connected nuclear outfit probably on the planet Earth. And that's probably if you've got an IRA or you've got a 401k or something like that, and you're like, gee whiz, what do I do? Take it all. This is not financial advice, but what I would do is I would take a real hard look at GEV, because everything nuclear is up, and it's been up like 100% or more in the last couple of years, and that's not going away. And the reason why it's not going away is because they're going to do what's Trumpy going to do? Trumpy and all his little friends, Sam Altman and the other fucking guy, the Oracle dude. This is what they're doing right now.
Stargate. Put that name down in your books, because I think you're going to hear a lot about it in the future. A new American company that will invest $500 billion at least in AI infrastructure.
The data centers are actually under construction. The first of them are under construction in Texas, the Abilene location, which is our first location.
Abilene is a town on the western central plains of Texas. We kind of scratch and fight for everything good that comes our way.
I had people reaching out and they said, well, is the president going to come see you? And I said, well, he hasn't texted me yet. So.
I'm thrilled we get to do this in the United States of America. I think this will be the most important project of this era.
Welcome to Abilene, Texas. This is the site of Project Stargate, a very mysterious, much talked about, much speculated about project that brings together OpenAI, SoftBank, Oracle. If it all comes together, building after building on this red dirt behind me will be filled with chips that'll power the AI revolution.
What we're undergoing right now is sort of the largest infrastructure build in human history. It's going to create new ways of doing business, it's going to create new ways of invention, and it's going to really drive humanity forward.
So they're spending $500 billion on a mega thing that involves banking, Larry Ellison's Oracle, which we know is a CIA front company, the gay guy from AI, Sam Altman, and all of this is going to be run. It's not going to be run off of fucking windmills, and it's not going to be run off of solar panels, right? And it's not going to be run with a coal-fired electrical plant. That's all that shit's running. That's going to be fucking nuclear. And you're being told in plain fucking English what's going to happen. You need to position yourself and your children and your grandchildren to be on the right side of that, because you don't want to be left out. You don't want to be left out of that. But they're saying it right to your face. But you have to have the ears to hear it, and a lot of people don't, you know. And if you're sitting there going, well, I don't give a fuck about this because I'm not a finance pro. Listen, I'm not a finance pro. I'm a dude sitting in a fucking 1-bedroom apartment in fucking New Jersey, you know. But you know, if you don't need money to live, then you don't need to be on this fucking show. If you don't think that money controls just about everything on the planet Earth, then you don't need to be here. And if you don't want to learn how you can make that shit at least not hurt you, well then, again, you don't really need to be here. So, and the thing about Bitcoin winning, at which I've changed my opinion recently based on this next video, and because it makes more sense. I've said, listen, Bitcoin's going to take over the world, and it's going to destroy fiat currency, and I believe that. And I was of the opinion that Trump and the shitcoiners and whatever, but the embrace of Bitcoin by Wall Street and these corporations and the rush to, oh, we got to have stable coins, we got to have stable coins, we got to have stable coins. The intense rush to make this happen. I thought, well, okay, Bretton Woods, the gold standard thing is gone from 1970. The petrodollar, ended in 2024, 2023, 2024. And now the U.S. government, the federal government, is looking for something to underpin, to peg, to back its fiat. And they chose Bitcoin because for whatever reason, they were advised to do it. And, the CIA loves it. And they're like, hey, instead of oil or gold, let's have a strategic reserve of Bitcoin. And I thought they did it out of an understanding that they needed to do that. And perhaps that's partially true, but the real reason that they're desperate to get these we got to get stablecoin legislation this year. We got to get this going. We got to get this going. The intensity of effort, the super focus that everyone seriously has at the federal government. The reason why, here's the real reason why.
The Chinese had rolled out a digital payment online system like a week or so ago. They've already handled over 1.2 trillion in cross-border settlements through this renminbi-based system. So as Washington is still debating, should we have a digital dollar or not? Beijing has already rolled out a digital renminbi, and payment system. It is shaking the very foundations of global finance. This cross-border settlement system now seamlessly connects to 10 ASEAN nations and 6 West Asian countries. It will enable nearly 38% of the world's trade volume to bypass the US-controlled Belgium-based SWIFT system. SWIFT is how banks message each other when they're wiring funds. And, the Iranians have been cut out of SWIFT. The Russians have been cut out of SWIFT. Basically, anyone the U.S. and its allies want to punish gets cut out of SWIFT. Suddenly, this digital renminbi comes on board. I mean, we're talking about 40% of world's trade can bypass SWIFT. The implications of the Chinese digital renminbi are crazy. SWIFT takes 3 to 5 days for a payment, once it's routed through intermediary banks, to arrive at a destination. China's blockchain-driven digital renminbi platform compresses the process to seconds. 7 seconds. Actually, to be precise. A normal payment that would go through 6 intermediary banks landed instantly with a 98% drop in transaction fees.
So China built a cross-border payment system that rivals, or potentially can rival, the SWIFT system. It's obviously kicking the shit out of it technologically and in every other way, and has enormous fucking implication, right? So there's stories about it. It's called CIPS, right? The China cross-border interbank payment system transacted or whatever, some ridiculous number of renminbis or whatever the fuck they're called, a 25% increase in the number of transactions year over year. And if you look at this little stat, you know, in 2023, there were 169 banks that were part of this system. And in 2024, that number increased to 1,461 banks are now part of the system. So the Chinese have their shit up and running, and they can potentially gobble up 40% of all global trade and facilitate an economic lifeline for countries we're trying to strangle. And that explains Washington having a fire lit underneath their fucking ass to get this crypto thing, get the stable coins, get the Bitcoin, something. Hurry, hurry, hurry. We got to make this happen. 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 It's the only thing that the Trump administration is determined to do. Whatever, you know, now you see the tariffs thing and the Elon Musk thing for how fucking fake it was. It was a total weak show, right? It was an attempt to intimidate the Chinese, and the Chinese are, you know what? Fuck you. We don't need you. Our thing is not gonna be done someday. It's already up and running. We don't need you. We can do business with the entire world right now, and we don't need your banking system anymore. And the bankers are fucking shitting themselves. At the bottom line is the bankers are terrified. They could lose an enormous amount of control. They're probably going to lose an enormous amount of control to China. And I don't mean to build up China too much, because I see a ton of China stuff and I don't know what to make of it. It looks like they're doing extremely well in a lot of different areas, while in America, you have the current mayor, his bodyguards are kidnapping people for their crypto fortunes. You have the future mayors literally like bootlicking Israel in debates. It's also fucking crazy, right? And it's only going to get crazier. The Roaring 20s, we're only halfway through. You know what I mean? We got another 5 years for the Roaring 20s, but I think the real driver is America is terrified of this Chinese cross-border payment system, and is embracing Bitcoin as a way to defeat the Chinese. I don't have the screen share anymore, but there was some sort of press release where the CIA said, "Oh, we could use Bitcoin to destroy China." I don't know. Good luck with that, but that's possible. It's certainly possible. But because the Chinese system is ultimately a closed system that's run by human beings, so there's much more potential for to fall back into the old patterns of corruption. But and we may end up using Bitcoin to destroy them. But who we are is going to be very different from the current elites. It's just things are going to change. Things are going to change because as our reality-based fucking top flight educator Ned Beatty says, this is what runs the world, kid.
Pounds and shekels. It is the international system of currency which determines the totality of life on this planet. That is the natural order of things today.
Ned Beatty, dropping some truth bombs. Well, Mr. Beatty, the 70s are over, right? We're in a new era, and the Chinese are in a position to seriously challenge us in a way that I don't think anyone else has ever challenged us. And it's going to be super fucking interesting. If you remember, arguably the lead up to World War II was Germany rearming itself and blah, 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 and Germany trying to do this. Germany was doing some technological advances. They had their Zeppelins, right? Their Hindenburgs going back and forth across the Atlantic, and they needed helium, but we wouldn't sell them helium because a certain group was angry at the changes in German governmental structure and the direction, right? Judea declares war on Germany. So is Judea going to declare war on China? Is it going maybe is it going to work out the same way? It seems like it is. I mean, they got Trump to try and do his phony tough guy thing. Oh, Jesus Christ. Coming back from Virginia the other night, in Philadelphia, within the city limits of Philadelphia, they had a fully lit up digital billboard that said taco, Trump always chickens out. That meme, I don't know if you've seen it around, I haven't shown it, but TACO, Trump always chickens out. They had that up in Philly, and I tried to, the time I saw it, because I had problems with my oil pressure light in my fucking car, and I thought my engine was going to seize up. It didn't, but I'm like looking down at my dashboard, like, oh fuck, don't crap out on me. And then I saw that, like, I saw the billboard. I was like, what the fuck? And I don't know who was sponsored by, but that's the fact that that's on a giant glowing billboard in America's third largest city. I think is, again, it's super telling that they smell blood in the water. His domestic enemies or groups that like BLM or whatever the next one's going to be called, and it'll all trace back to the Annenberg Foundation, and it'll all trace back to some communist fucking thing, which will funnel the money back to the Bank of International Settlements. That they can smell blood in the water. They know how weak this guy is, and they're just waiting for their opportunity to pounce. And that'll be pretty interesting. But with that, is that everything? That's almost everything. That's pretty much almost everything. It was 57 minutes like that. Yeah, the thing about asking the questions, what questions to ask. This guy, I got some video of that dude some years ago, in 2021. I took this guy's 2-day pistol class. This is at Delta Force Pro, who they didn't do a whole lot of social media, but he did Joe Rogan, and now he's having a chat with Megyn Kelly.
Who are the good guys?
We're not. I don't think we are at
You
all.
don't?
I don't think we're good friends. I think we deal on a short timeline, a 4-year timeline. And I think everyone else has like been in charge for 50 years. You know what I mean? And they've seen us flip-flop back and forth, and we pull, we push, we tug a war with the rope. It never ends out good. We're not good friends. And then as soon as you don't do what we want, we're going to chuck you under the bus and move the fuck on. You know what I mean?
Like, give me an example.
I'm giving you an example right now. Where are these helicopters at? Where's the story of bin Laden from Abbottabad? That's where the officers are trained in Pakistan. Interesting. And how did he get out of Afghanistan? He's on dialysis. You mean this guy walked over 14,000-foot mountains in the snow with his little woolen blanket and his dialysis machine, but left all his people behind? I think someone else stepped in and took bin Laden into hiding.
So that's the guy that Delta Force sent into the Tora Bora Mountains to kill bin Laden. And he's with Megyn Kelly. If you go on Instagram, you can just put in Megyn Kelly, John McPhee, MCPHEE, and you can see other clips where he says they were in Tora Bora and like a week into it, and somebody called a ceasefire. They were told to stop fighting, and 2 helicopters flew over the battlefield. And then they left, and then he was told to go back to killing the Afghanistan guys again. And he believes that the CIA took bin Laden out of Tora Bora and moved him to Abbottabad, Pakistan. He doesn't say it directly in the clip, but he says, "Who owns helicopters? Did normal people own helicopters? Like, how do you have helicopters, fly over a battlefield in Tora Bora? Who has the power to do that? We do. It's like that the CIA guy that interviewed the opium farmer, said, you know, why do you grow opium? And he says, well, the Americans told me I could grow as much opium as I want. And he says, what Americans? Who Americans? And they go, oh, come on, we gotta go. So they send that dude who's a psycho fucking killer, bro. You know, or he was back in the day. They sent him after bin Laden, and him and his team advance and kill so many people and make up so much ground so quick that the people at the top go, oh shit, if we kill bin Laden in Afghanistan 3 weeks after 9/11, there's no war on terror. There's no Iraq, there's no Libya, there's no Syria, there's no nothing. You know what I mean? The whole thing comes to an end. So we have to take him, you know, and make it an endless fucking global wild goose chase, you know, which is the gears of which are oiled with Muslim blood, you know, until we find bin Laden. So, and this is a guy who he believes, you know, I mean, he's as much stated that the CIA rescued bin Laden and brought him to Pakistan. And he doesn't even think we even killed him. He thinks we killed the body though. Because he says it's not so easy when you're running through a house killing people to get 100% ID on the guy. But, and I'll take his word for it. But this was a career guy, a Delta Force guy who says that, you know, don't trust the CIA when it tells you something, and ask the question, how did this motherfucker get from Tora Bora to Abbottabad, Pakistan, you know, dragging a dialysis machine over his shoulder? How did that happen? You know, we haven't heard that story. And when you start asking for, hey, look at this, you know, what's the gap in here? What, you know, what's the connection between this and that? How come, why is there just this one storyline and then blank, and then here's the end? You know, and where are the chapters in the middle? You're not allowed to ask those questions. You aren't allowed to ask those questions. These are the scary, uncomfortable questions. It's much more fun to sit there and think that people wake up and fill potholes for nationalism and they're gonna go fucking whatever, you know. If we just put a different group of scumbags in charge of the money printer, everything's gonna be great. And that's the fairy tale you're currently struggling with right now, and it's one that the one that will die eventually. It's most certainly going to die. But until it dies, you'll still be sitting there on the other side of the screen arguing with me. Oh, but no, if we do this, or if we do that. Listen, there is no set of rules or laws or cultural fucking prohibitions that have ever successfully stopped the desire for human gain. If you can game the system, if you can break the fucking rules, individual can break the rules and gain generational wealth, they will. And that's happened in every nation, in every time period. So, you know, to continue to follow the strategy that's been a losing strategy for 5,000 years is not flattering to your intellectual fucking ego. You know what I mean? You're imitating a losing strategy and a losing tactic, and if you want to do that, go ahead and do that. But some of us, and listen, I realize nothing's going to change tomorrow, you know, but some of us realize that the future is going to have to be different. There's not going to be a future where, and I don't give a shit how much they spend on Project Stargate, where people are going to get up and fucking work 12 and 14-hour days for an electronic token that won't buy them fucking food or shelter, and the elites that you're told to look up to, the Peter Thiels, the Sam Altmans, the fucking, what's the other guy, the Larry Ellisons, Zuckerberg, et cetera, when they and their friends, their buddies from private equity do shit like this, you know, you're not going to want to hear how great life is under AI.
The private equity firm that owned and shut down this Delco hospital pocketed hundreds of millions of dollars in the process, while it left its community stranded of emergency services, and it has already ruined lives. Prospect Medical Group bought the nonprofit Crozier Hospital System back in 2016 while the hospital system was struggling financially. 2 years later, in 2018, Prospect took out a $1 billion loan and then paid out investors over $450 million. The CEO, Sam Lee, pocketed almost $100 million. And obviously, when you take out a loan, you have to pay it back. So Prospect sold all the land and buildings of all the hospitals they owned across the country to a real estate investment trust for $1.4 billion. That real estate trust then rents out the land and the buildings back to the hospitals in what's called a sale-leaseback agreement. For the Crozier system in Delco, this now meant that they had to pay $35 million a year in rent to the trust. That's $35 million a year in rent that they didn't have to pay before Prospect took over. On top of that, Prospect was accused of aggressively cost-cutting, reducing the quality of care at their hospitals, and got sued multiple times for Medicare fraud. Surprise, surprise, Prospect had to file for bankruptcy back in January, listing debts of more than $400 million, which is also suspiciously similar to the $450 million that was paid out to investors back in 2018. So Prospect had to shut down 2 of its hospitals here in Delco, making it much harder for the people in this area to get the proper care they need. Quite literally, some people in emergency situations will now because of the extra time it takes to get to another hospital. And mind you, that is not an exaggeration, it has already happened. The kind of good news is there is legislation being introduced in Pennsylvania to ban sale-leaseback agreements like the ones that ruined Crozier and some other regulatory measures. But the reality is a lot of damage has already been done, and the Prospect investors basically got away with all of this, and they're now hundreds of millions of dollars richer.
So what can you do about that? What you can do about that is participate in an economic system that doesn't permit that. Because the current one not only allows that, but it fucking encourages that shit. And hope in the meantime that you gotta that your the electric battery or the battery in your electric car can get you, 50 miles away to the nearest fucking hospital, because they will literally take the fucking hospitals from you. They will take everything from you. You know what I mean? And why participate in the system that keeps them in power forever and keeps you a victim forever? It just doesn't make sense to me. But you do what you're gonna do. You can pray for Adolf Hitler to come back from the fucking dead and rescue you. Where's my man Adolf? Adolf.
Hey, I'm tripping, I'm sliding, I'm riding through the back like mustard on a beat, bro, deep boat in rap, he a freak though, man down, call like Amber Lambs, tell him breathe.
Enjoy that. I really hope you enjoy that, because here's your other choice.
I'd love to go to Israel. I mean, how historical is that? But I just can't deal with the Alex Jones is, going to Israel to get his orders or whatever. It's just like, I mean, I would love to touch the Wailing Wall.
To stand with the Jew?
Listen, and if that's the way you want to live your life, well, this is who you are.
Toby be good nigga for massa. Good nigga.
Your choice. Absolutely your choice. Make sure, by the way, to smash up the like button. Smash up the like button, because where else do you get content like this? All the crappy feds, the Sam Hydes, the Nick Fuentes, the OVs, the fucking the Norvins, all of these fucking people who are literally on government welfare to be pretend anti-Semites cannot hold a candle. Cannot hold a candle to me. They cannot possibly hold a candle to me. And look, we have comments. We have people in the chat. Virgil Doc, Purple Heart, welcome to the show, sir. Tread Dad, what's new, fellow Eastern Seaboarders? Well, in order to get the mayoralty of New York City, you must pledge allegiance to Israel. Tread Dad, who's your daddy moment? No, guys, I'm not sure where that came from. what you're specifically referring to. Underpin, aka co-opted and extracted value for themselves, like the last time. And yes, why would you continue to support said system? When, listen, we can't, none of us can escape this shit right now, but you can be sly, you can be subversive, you can take one tiny step towards freedom, you know what I mean? And nobody's paying attention. And then you take one other tiny step towards freedom and no one's going to pay attention. And bit by bit, you make it off the plantation, my Negro. Bit by bit, it's going to be step by step. It's not going to be all at once. It's not going to happen next week, as much as we would like it to happen. But knowing that you are doing the only rational, peaceful, and legal thing you can do to end this will be some comfort to you. You can measure your success by how much Bitcoin you have, and that's a measure of your success. That's a measure of I took back 1 hour from them. I took back 1 day from them. I took back 1 week from them and measured in fiat. You know, you get paid X dollars an hour. If you have that much Bitcoin, that's 1 hour you stole back that they can never take from you again. If you do that for a week, a month, a year, etc., that's your measure of your success. Every time you look at your stack and keep your mouth shut about it, so you don't get chained to a basement in a New York City townhouse, or some hoochie mama comes and rubs up against you and steals your private keys, keep your mouth shut about it. But that the size of your stack is the measurement of how much of your freedom you took back. And that works for you on an individual level, and it has a knock-on effect. If more and more and more of us do it, and more and more of us will do it. It's inevitable that it will happen, even though pricks like Michael Saylor are buying up every fucking Bitcoin they have. You get every Bitcoin on the plate. That has to happen. Like guys like him, insane, greedy lunatics like him, are a necessary part of this. Once you game it out higher and higher and higher, when it's no longer worth getting out of bed for those pieces of paper or the electronic tokens that they deposit in your checking account, then things are going to change a lot. We aren't there yet, but that is inevitable. It happened to the Hungarian Pengu, the Venezuelan Bolivar, the Lebanese Lira. It happened in Weimar. It happened in Argentina. It happened in Sri Lanka. It's going to happen. It happened in fucking the Czech Republic 7 times in the last 140 years. You know how this story ends, so let's just skip to the back of the book and start something new. That would be the smart thing to do, you know. Hopefully you're smart enough to do that, because if you aren't, then you deserve your fate. You absolutely deserve your fate. And what do I deserve? I deserve for you to smash up the like button, for Christ's sake. Have you smashed up the like button yet? Anyway, where are we at? 1 hour, 13 minutes to Virgil Dark, Purple Heart, Tread Dead, and probably whoever's looking over on the Rumble stream. Thanks for stopping by, guys, and I'll talk to you guys again next week.